Yeah, I think what you're getting at is interesting, which is the ChatGPT moment that happened is due to neural networks, basically. And essentially the magic there, the magic that we all feel with the genie in our pocket, is that it can basically reason, quote unquote reason, it can recognize things without needing to be told what it is. And that was like the cat paper, basically. It's like, hey, we can recognize a cat, and therefore there's different applications where we can recognize this. But I think what's interesting when we think about this, I'm curious to get everyone's thoughts. It feels like there's a disconnect between that magic moment and this kind of experience we're having with generative and really actually applying that to businesses. And like, where does that actually apply? Okay, this feels magic, but okay, what does that actually mean for me? And I was wondering if we could just start from a place that you're all seeing, if you were gonna give advice to business owners, it could be SMBs, mid-market, where do you see in your daily application or some of the things you've seen, like what use cases is it useful for, or what advice would you give? Maybe we can just go around or we can skip around. Yeah, let's go other side first. Good call.
Well, the first thing I would say is not be scared. I mean, there's this entire fear factor that's been going on, whether part of it's media, part of it's not understanding, part of it is fear of the unknown. And every time we have any kind of revolution that happens, and I can say this because I'm older than I look, so I've seen from, the color TVs being not just for the wealthy families, but being in every household, to what we have today, to gaming systems, to cell phones, to the car phones that were bags, to now it's integrated into your car. And everything that happens was this learning process along the way of perfection. And people don't realize that AI is a tool. And so the first thing that I talk to when I have that as a client that wants to use it in some shape, form, or fashion within their business, or we're looking at it as a nonprofit and how we can use it effectively. It's a tool, and using that tool effectively and doing the research to find out what really suits us as we go along is step one.
It's an interesting topic.
Do you want to, I don't know, maybe
It's an interesting topic that's kind of going around the business space right now, is the challenge to measure the ROI on these fast initial AI investments. A lot of businesses are feeling pressured to do it and jump into it and get ahead of it so they're not behind their competition. And they're putting lots of money into these tools that their employees aren't entirely sure how to use. And they may or may not be getting a return on that initial investment, or any investment, really. So if in meeting with businesses and talking with clients about their strategy, I would really encourage them to think about what their goal is for that AI investment, what they're hoping that tool will serve, and how they're going to measure the success of that. Just like any other business investment, the investment in AI tools and compute and power should not be any different than any other business investment. Your board review to look at hiring decisions and whether or not you're going to expand a department, your conversations about what your expansion in AI is going to be should be a very, very similar conversation. So you don't wind up in a place where you've spent thousands, if not millions of dollars on this system for your business that you may or may not have really needed, or at least that segment of your business may or may not have really needed. There's been some conversation right now over the overhead expense around AI and the generation of work slop, which is when employees are putting, half-built queries into AI, getting an answer to an email, putting a very verbose response into an email, and then taking more time for their colleague to read the email. So then they're copying the email into the AI. So what you've really done is make your team less efficient. They're not writing a fast email, they're writing a long email through ChatGPT, and then their colleague has to take that email and run it through ChatGPT. There's a infographic, if you Google, where the job applicant uses ChatGPT to create their resume, and they submit it to the job, and then the HR department uses AI to analyze the resumes, and then they use AI to send a response, and then the applicant uses AI to read whether or not the response was positive or negative. So
only 6% of resumes actually get read by a human.
Yeah. No, I'm good.
So I will say, in terms of getting started with AI, I would say download ChatGPT or you go to Gemini and start a conversation. Right? I mean, if you're not using it at all and you're not even sure where the entry point is, just start there. Right? And when it comes to your business, just go to ChatGPT and say, hey, this is the kind of business I have. How could AI help me? And I can tell you right now, it's going to give you a lot of responses. All right. Now, from a use case standpoint, and actually, if you're not familiar with that term use case, try to get familiar with it, especially if you have a business. Because what a use case is will allow you to focus in on how AI could really help your business. So once look, right now there's over 40,000 different AI apps. Okay. Don't try to go out there and learn about every single app that's out there. It's a fool's errand. Things are changing very quickly. Companies are coming in, they're going out of business, some are getting invested, some are getting bought up. Trying to figure out all these different tools, you're going to drive yourself crazy. However, you want to understand what the capabilities are, right? So get well versed in understanding what AI can and cannot do, right? And then when you're ready to leverage that particular capability, then figure out what's the best tool for you, all right? And when we talk about use case, that means how can you leverage AI to solve an issue or a problem or seize an opportunity for your business, right? And how can AI help you do that? When you narrow in on understanding what your use case is, that will give you much more focus in terms of the types of tools or technologies that you'll need in order to bring that to life, to deliver to the outcomes of that use case, okay? So I would say start there. Now for small businesses, there's a lot you can do. I mean, especially the stuff that you find are like is an administrative burden, like coming up with social media advertisements, coming up with key messaging, coming up with how to write emails, comparing different documents, dealing with invoices. There are ways of being able to automate a lot of these kind of tasks, leveraging AI. But it's important to recognize too that AI can make mistakes, and so you also need to make sure there's a saying in AI, human in the loop. You always want to make sure that you're checking the work of AI. Think about AI as like a collaborator, not a solution that you can kind of set it and forget it, all right? But I would say start first by just getting on these chatbots and just start asking it questions about how it can help your business. And you'll be surprised how far it will take you.
Yeah, great comments. Before we talk about the opportunities, AI is a tool. To me, my daily job is what are the problems for your daily job you want to, let's say, for the industries, drug development, extensive resource for the drug. Is any way to implement AI to help reduce the operation cost? Like say for us, we are for the pharmaceutical company looking for the hospital select a site, identify patients. Right now, our colleagues looking for based upon historical data. Hey, maybe you can look at find this hospital, this doctor is good at PI, could find a good patient for a study. So you can use these tools to address the questions. The fundamental point is that narrow down the particular questions, figure out what the AI to address these questions. In other words, in this way, you address the questions, then bring the value to the community, to the project. Consequently, the business will follow, the profit will follow.